Boom, let's do this thing. This is Hikosaemon, and this is Tokyo Tonight. Welcome to this show. Good to be back live. I couldn't be here live last week because I was traveling to Dalian, which, I guess you guys saw me tweeting during the week. I suddenly, there they are, I was looking for these. I've got my blue light glasses, but I'll put my regulars on. So it makes me feel in character. So anyway, it's been a fascinating week. I've been working. I've been on a business trip to Dalian in China, which has been a bit of a digital Betty Ford clinic for me because I've had no access to Facebook, Twitter, or Google services, or pretty much anything that I normally use. It's been interesting. I have figured out how to post tweets when I was over there, so I kind of did a bit of a blog about my impressions, which was quite fun. I actually, in the airport, at the very end of the trip, did a bit of a video blog, quite long, but summarized all my impressions, and watching it back, it's kind of, it's good. So I'm going to hopefully edit that and get that posted for you guys, to share with you guys this week, because it really was fascinating going to, not just China, which I went to Shanghai. My first trip to China was 3 weeks ago. My second trip was a couple of weeks later. My first trip was to Shanghai. But yeah, it was like, Shanghai and Beijing are obviously the two main cities. But this was a very, very different impression of a very, large, amazing city, which, most people, including myself until a long time before, hadn't heard of. Thank you, Robert Old Dude, for the like. I like that. Oh, by the way, that reminds me, because I could only read my Twitter and Facebook notifications in China. I could read the notifications, but not actually open the apps. So I made it so that the notifications would open full screen, which means, I guess, if you guys want to feature on the show, all you have to do is like the video, which will get the notification, or if it's linked with Twitter anyway, and it will dominate the entire screen. So there you go. I may get nothing done at all. Which would be totally fine with me. So let me stretch this out so that I can see the comments a little bit better. Very good to see you all, of course. Wait a minute. Who's got a username HikoGoBoom? I like, well, boom is how I go. I like that. By the way, at the end of the show as well, I am going to try, I say this every week, I'm going to keep this short. I am tired, I'm going to try to keep this short this week. I don't have as much as usual. Oh, Kamedo, you are awesome, thank you. That's pretty cool, actually, that now I don't even miss it now, so that's awesome. Oh, and Legit Outlaw 87, you are awesome, thank you, Legit Outlaw. That's pretty cool. Okay, so anyway, yes, who got that username? Damn, I have to check that out. But anyway, Sean Bro, Benjamin Harris, Mr. Cordy Chep, Phoenix 787, Lucas Massa, Gifted Ones 1987, Lucas Massa, Benjamin Harris, Hiko Go Boom. That awesome. Boom is how I go. Eduardo Huerta, good to see you. El Comedo, of course, great to see you. Mr. Inquisitor, howdy to you indeed. That's a new username, so you might be a new or a new commenter, first time commenter, I don't know, but very good to see you. Ninja88, g'day. Yeah, let's check this out. We got a great crowd. Great to see Legit Outlaw in here, who I know watches every now and then, but I haven't seen you live. Well, yes, you come sometimes and not, but hey, and Dark Cinder, thanks for the retweet. Phoenix 787, thanks for the like, and all that goodness. So, Ricardo the Ferry, good to see you. Mills 87, wow, look at everybody coming in. Charlie Noseka to Huggers too. G'day bro, back at you. It's awesome. And yes, the game with South Africa last week was awesome. That was like one of the best rugby games I've seen in a while, except New Zealand wins all the rugby games except the important ones in the World Cup. That's our problem. Jonas BE, awesome to see you. Yeah, apologies to everyone. I usually set up the show, I know, about an hour or two early. Tonight I was just doing lots of stuff. I just got back. I did manage to get all my topics sorted out. Hey, Andrea Moboya, good to see you. Nicholas Rapp, awesome to see you. Hey, everyone's rocking in. Robert 1967 Canada. Love seeing all the usernames and everyone in there watching, and it's great that I can watch while I'm talking and checking my topics as well. So yeah, great crowd in tonight. So I have done a separate video about my China impressions. There are two videos that are going to come out of my China trip. One is going to be my just blog, free stream of thought, talking about impressions of spending a week pretty deep in China and being, really well looked after by my co-workers over there, who are all Chinese, but we all speak Japanese to each other. They don't speak a word of English. So it's kind of funny. It's like, I guess it's like, I don't know, like a you know, Latin American and a French person meeting an American all talking English. I mean, that's how it was for us, except it was in Japanese. There are not many places in the world that you would speak Japanese as a lingua franca. But Dalian is one of those places. It's a really Japan-friendly city. Oh man, I'm tired. One of those cities, I said it with a Japanese pronunciation, didn't I? Ben Duncan, good to see you. Bakashiru, good to see you. The reason I saw Bakashiru and I was thinking shit when I said city. Hey, Backsterials, hello to you. Looks like we are doing all well. And Jason Harris, good to see you indeed. Good to see you. By the way, make sure you all subscribe to Jason C. Harris and check out his show, which is the lead into this show. But anyway, one video was the free, you know, the kind of blog about impressions of China, and the other one was actually, I went to a North Korean government-run restaurant. It's called the Pyongyang Kang, which means building. I don't know what the official name for it is, but I went, yeah, the Pyongyang building. It's funny, the food, I had North Korean food, which is of course a lot like South Korean food. I assumed it would be a little bit more austere. Yeah, I'm tired. Sorry, Mr. Cordy. The lingua franca and the shitty. Oh man. Well, I'm gonna fight through it anyway. I'm gonna get through it. And it looks like I have to make a move on Words with Friends. So yeah, the North Korean restaurant. The food was awesome. The entertainment was awesome. The waitress was you know, I mean, yeah, that these people are picked, you know, out of their villages and whatever, and you know, to go and to represent the country in these places, which earn a lot of income for the North Korean government, and they exist in Southeast Asia and all over China. Not in Japan, unfortunately, but yeah, I got to meet and have a fascinating conversation with the waitress, which actually, there's some problems with filming inside the place. You can film the performances, but it gets a little bit more tricky where they don't let you film or photograph the waitresses and staff while you're working there. Various reasons. It's just to do with how they kind of control them. So I'm going to have to talk about those parts and add that to the video that I shot inside the restaurant. But the food was excellent. Had a great time. The waitress was amazingly cute and very fun to talk to, even though she was talking Chinese to my Chinese guys, and we were all talking. I was talking to her through Japanese, through Chinese interpretation. But yeah, I just had a really great week, and I actually think I had a better time in Dalian for various reasons than I did in Shanghai. So yeah, it was pretty awesome anyway. I had a great week, and I can't wait to share all of that with you. But rather than talk about that tonight, I'm going to set up a couple of dedicated videos to those subjects. Plus, what I was doing in the last hour, instead of setting up the live show, was I was transferring photos from my camera, my Panasonic, onto my iPhone, so that I could edit them into kind of my Instagram. So I've got some really nice Instagrams as well, which I've got from the trip. So yes, indeed. And by the Mr. Inquisitor, well, I mean, I don't know if I have a folder. Everyone's got a file on something in America, but you know, eating the kimchi, which by the way was excellent. They had really good food there. If that gives me a folder with the CIA, then I'm quite happy to have it. I'll do a video with my full restaurant review. Just as a sneak peek. So I found out talking to them that they like, apparently they don't get paid. It's part of the way that they control them, and apparently as well, like, there's so much trouble going on in the country that while they're on regular 3-year rotations, current batch are not allowed to go back at the moment, and they don't get paid until after they go back, and they're basically not allowed to leave, you know, the dorm around the restaurant. They're pretty tightly controlled. I mean, it's like an Olympic village or something. You know, but charming people. It was really, just really fascinating, and it was great to see the people there. So Andrea is asking me, Matt Damon, August too. What did I order? I've got some photos actually. Maybe I can show you. That is the restaurant right there, the Pyongyang Kang. You can read. And the Chinese is the same as the Japanese. Oh, you know what? I don't have it on this one, so I can't show you right away. But anyway, I got basically a kimchi set. I got like some vegetables. Just trying to remember. Actually, I took some photos of the food. But yeah. Anyway, I'll do a video and I'll show you what I had anyway. Oh, you know what I had? I had some North Korean beer, and it was actually pretty good. Was it Taedonggang beer? It was pretty cool. So anyway, had a great time, and I will be able to talk about that I may or may not be able to talk about that in a separate video. So two videos to look forward to this week are coming up from that trip. But anyway, zipping back to the topics from tonight. This is a bit of an oldie but a goodie thumbnail, which I've wanted to use for a while. So this is from J Philosopher, so thank you J Philosopher for the awesome thumbnail, which I could use on top of this magazine and for the video. And Michael Atlas, very good to see you, and indeed it's good to be back from China, even though I really actually had a better time than I was expecting. Yeah, one kind of funny thing is that, you know, I was afraid of the food going over. I talk about this in my video about the place, but and even the Chinese people were worried about me. I had Chinese food every day, you know, and normal kind of, you know, not well, the first day I had some street food, but you know, but normal, you know, cheap everyday stuff which everyone has. And I was a little bit worried about the food safety, but I was fine through the whole week pretty much, even though it is of course very oily food. But every day, every morning, my co-workers would go, "Hey Hiko, you have diarrhea?" That was like how they say. Apparently that's how they say hello in Dalian, as they ask you if you have diarrhea. Which I never got. It's amazing. I got through the week. Actually, someone at work got a stomach problem and I didn't. So there we go. I survived. Just for topics this week. Oh, this is actually by Pagchan, who did, of course, my awesome Twitter logo that I'm using at the moment. You can see up the top there. There are the Hiko Cola Kiwis. She also did the Shala Marshmallow Nickels. And she's made a little convenience store of little products and stuff there. She does awesome work, and I love that she did that this week, so that's why I put that there, because she is awesome and I love her work. So yeah, some topics for this week. Let's just get into it. And yeah, look forward to the vlogs indeed, Andrea, please. I noticed this on Lifehacker. Lifehacker, I don't retweet a lot, but occasionally there's some really interesting stuff that's there. It's worth following for that. This is an interesting article just on how to get better quality out of video chats, but when I read through it, I think a lot of the advice on this, especially if you're like me, I'm using a webcam camera at the moment, a Skype camera. I'm using a Microsoft Livecam to shoot this. And a lot of the principles hold exactly the same for having a high quality Skype conversation as they do for doing something like a live hangout, or even just making a video blog of yourself. So, you know, making sure your software is updated. And wear headphones. I love this one because, again, Hangouts on air, I'm always telling people to wear headphones or people to turn their speakers off. Wear headphones. This is great Hangouts on air advice. Adjust your light. Again, makes a huge difference indeed. And my lighting here isn't actually very good. I'm in a bigger room than before and the light's kind of further away, and I'm thinking about getting a second light to put directly beside the camera there. I'd even love one of those circular lights that go around the webcam. But yeah, it just makes the picture look a lot better. Hey, Comical Reina, Hiko-chan, Reina-chan, good to see you. Good to see you. Ohayo, mo hayaku ida, tsukareteru ne kyou. Hai, hayaoki da ne. Hayaoki da ne, mo yokatta. It must be like 5 o'clock in the morning for you, actually. So I'm really, really impressed that you're up, Reina, and very, very good to see you. And it was very cool hanging out with you when you were in Japan. I was a bit out of sorts that day, and I'm sorry, I don't know what it was. I was super looking forward to meeting you and talking with you, and I think I wanted to talk about too many things at once, and we had too little time. And I don't know, and I was in the middle of the workday, of course, as well. But I really, really loved meeting up with Komoko Reina when she was in Japan, and as soon as I can get more control over my life again, I'd love to find time in my life to actually go back to making regular videos with her as well. And actually, maybe like I do with Steve Miller once monthly, that would be cool as well. Hey, and remember, after midnight, okay, you go get some good sleep. You do that, and see you again. You can watch the video later. But anyway, adjust your light definitely, and make sure you're looking into a decent light, which I'm not exactly doing. I've got a light over there and one over there, and it's enough, but you know, you need a light beside the camera, so that's a really good one. Make sure your background is stationary, yes indeed, because it will make it harder to process the video information. This works. This is true for regular videos as well as for by the way, I assume that was Jonas BE, so thank you for the Twitter follow. Yeah, just make sure if you're against a stable background, then the video will digitize at a higher bitrate, at a higher resolution. This was very true back in the days of early YouTube, when everything was like you had to squeeze every little bit of video quality out. And this was something very important. You know, you never shoot a video in front of moving traffic because the whole thing will come out as big square blocks. It's not so much of a problem now, but the principle is true. It improves your video quality if you're against a stable background. That's not too noisy. I like to have a bit of chaos in the background, but so long as it doesn't move, you're okay. Don't overload my internet with other tasks. That's right, keep your bandwidth. So I shut down everything else that I'm not using otherwise. Used wired internet instead of Wi-Fi. Again, very true, especially with with Hangouts again. I think the principle's basically the same. I mean, a Hangout on air, I guess, basically is, of course, a web chat. So this is very true. Adjust your webcam settings. It says here you can tweak the settings. I don't really play with the settings very much unless there's something really out of whack. There's some other tips there again. Increase clips frame per second. That's not so applicable. But yeah, the stuff about the background, the lighting, the camera, all that stuff is very good actually. So a nice little article for good tips on shooting video blogs, videos of yourself, which is a small, still admittedly a niche genre, but if you're going to do it, this is really good advice. And I corroborated. I corroborated. God damn it. I'm getting old and I'm forgetting English and I'm tired. But yes, so for those of you who missed it, I did a Tokyo Tonight last week at the airport at Narita, and I did a return video blog at Dalian Airport, which will go up very soon. So look forward to that. By the way, 2 more episodes to go on how to not screw up in Japan with Rochelle Kopp. I'm actually got a series ready after that, which is going to be called. Oh, you know what? The first episode we talk about the title, so I'm not going to give away the title, but it is my series talking about video making and TV production with Aceman, as I call him, or better known to you guys as Henagaijin, and that is going to be awesome. Hey, Mikey Chen, Travis Moore, oh look at all the cool kids are here. Lisa sometimes, man in Japan. Wow, it's pretty awesome there. Wow, awesome crowded. But anyway, sorry, distracted for a moment. Then what was I talking about? Yeah, anyway, so I shot a video coming back. I've got a video from Dalian Airport, so check all that stuff out. And actually, I did manage to cover all these subjects last week, even though it was at the airport. Nice to see YouTube is revealing a new mobile app which has more emphasis on user subscriptions. It's nice to see the emphasis on subscriptions coming back, because sometimes they get rid of them. Charlie no Seikatsu, Kiri Washington, good to see you. If you haven't seen I can't wait for this. I love Vice News. And actually I want to be talking a bit about Vice News as a subject this week because of the video from, actually not this week but last week, the whole schoolgirl hostessing topic, which Jake Edelstein and what's his name? I'll get to it. His name's like Simon Ostrovsky or something like that. But the Ukraine-Russian reporter guy. But anyway, I love those news stories, and for me Vice News brings back what I always loved. Hey, Phil Nolan, good to see you. And what I always thought was good about news, and what made me want to be involved in news when I was younger. But at the same time, it is definitely there to be lampooned, although it's better than anything else. The fact that Onion has, it looks like they're going to be setting up a whole series making fun of Vice. I can't wait. I saw the trailer for it, and yeah, it looks really, really good. So if you haven't seen the trailer for the Edge, by the Onion, check it out, because it's good. It's good. But the fact is, it's I think it's positive. It's making fun of something that's good, right? So yeah, I can't wait for this. Anyway, starting from August 3rd, and I am on the edge of my seat. New Zealand fighting the good fight. TPP negotiations. They did not come to agreement this week in Hawaii and Maui. Actually, it was kind of cool. Mariko Lockridge, who was of course on 2.5 or not 2.5 Oyajis, but on my Wednesday show a few weeks ago, she was actually in Maui there to cover it, and it was very disappointing to everyone that there was no final agreement reached as they were supposed to do for the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which was founded and established by New Zealand. But it's funny, with all the sticking points that came in, and there some minor ones, rice, intellectual property, some some final sticking points, and they're almost there. But one of the holdouts was New Zealand, and the reason was Japan will not liberalize butter enough. New Zealand is fighting for liberalized butter importing and dairy importing into Japan. And I am very proud and very happy that New Zealand is the country that is fighting for butter. I don't know, maybe they watch, maybe the ambassador watches the show. I hope so. Kapai fellas, go get that stuff. Kia kaha. And yeah, honestly, I mean, you're not just doing this for New Zealand, you're doing this for Japan, because Japan is, shutting out the butter, but they're not even making enough butter to sustain the Japanese market. And we're having shortages here, and we need New Zealand to save the day with New Zealand butter. So yes, I'm very glad to hear that New Zealand is holding up the entire TPV finalization over Japan being stingy with butter imports. Keep it up, New Zealand. You see, New Zealand is awesome. I'm a proud New Zealander, even though they haven't let me vote in 17 years because I don't live in the country, and they let foreigners vote who live in New Zealand, but they don't let New Zealanders vote who live abroad, which sucks. I would see, you should let me vote now, because I would totally vote for the government right now, because they're fighting for butter. There's no better fight. Amber, good to see you. Oh, and I'm very glad that you enjoyed the maglev video. Anyway, so I could start singing the anthem if we get butter. Here it is. If New Zealand gets its way with Japan, which, let's face it, it's kind of unlikely because New Zealand's a country with a population of Yokohama, but if it does get its way and there really are genuine butter trade restrictions, trade tariffs lifted by Japan, if they genuinely give way and New Zealand wins, I will sing the New Zealand anthem in Maori on this show live. I will do it. So if that doesn't incentivize John Key, I'm sure they're going to show this video to John Key now. Fight for butter, fight for dairy. I'm in Japan. I'm a New Zealander trapped in Japan without butter. Help me. Send butter. Fight the TPP negotiations to send it. Sorry. So just had to get that out of my system. Hey, Black Dragon, Nico, good to see you. And Barringer, good to see you. We've got an awesome crowd here tonight. Very good to see everyone here. And Sasimang 28172, always good to see you. But anyway, next one is that Nokia, apparently, they're no longer making mobile phones, but they're actually making a spherical, and look at that. That is a spherical, not just spherical 720 degree video camera with like my feet, but it's actually stereoscopic and spherical. So that is very interesting to me, and the fact that that means that you can put on a headset and it will actually have depth and be 720 degrees, which YouTube has already announced that they're going to be supporting very soon. The only problem, of course, which you all know from my Theta camera, which I love, but is that the resolution is too low. 1080p, you need at least 4K to be able to show it, for it to be watchable. So hopefully, I don't know, they haven't released any specs on this camera that they've got, but if that thing has 2K or better, 2K or 4K, or anything up from that, I'm in the market. I want to buy, a 4K spherical camera. And very cool to see that Nokia and people are really starting to take this seriously, because I think that this is the future of making video. This is kind of hilarious. So I don't know if you guys saw the omotenashi, that the Tokyo Olympic uniforms have been released, and they basically look exactly like these uniforms, which are the uniforms from the previous Korean Olympics. I'm just trying to think, which Olympics were they? I think they might have been one of the Winter Olympics or something that they had there. And they look incredibly dorky, and the entire internet, and as soon as like Korea started complaining Tokyo stole our designs, Nichan here just started saying, please take them. We don't want them. In fact, they seemed almost relieved to find out that these Japanese uniforms here are so similar to the Korean ones, because it might force them to get rid of. Oh, of course, one thing is that the internet, a lot of the right wingers, they don't like Masazoe, so immediately they're saying, because they think that he's too Korea friendly. So now they're saying, I knew it, Masazoe, that guy, he just sold that or whatever. This is no problem. But the whole thing is, of course, they all hate the uniform to begin with. But where is it? I'm pretty sure I put it in here. Someone proposed this new uniform, which is just a very normal Japanese uniform. And as soon as this went up, the whole Japanese internet says, this is 1,000,000 times better, which I actually agree with them on. Hey, Wildfire 777, kia ora, good to see you there. So is this not better? So actually, Mr. Cordy Chep, maybe it is the 1988 Olympics, but I think they've had a couple of Winter Olympics since then. I'm not exactly sure. I'm not sure which Olympics it's from. But basically, the right-wing internet definitely approves of, instead of this incredibly dorky uniform, this proposed design, which I think is awesome as well. I mean, see, I would buy that as a souvenir. Who would buy that as a souvenir? Seriously, it looks like a Korean Olympic official, married and had children with a Swiss yodeler. Honestly, I don't understand. So, sorry, I had to post that. I think this is very important, that they need to change their uniform. I mean, if they're going to change the stadium, they can change the uniform anyway. So that was funny. Sedegai Award, you guys are awesome. Our second award in Japan, local government in Japan, to recognize gay marriage. In terms of producing official documentation to recognize and treat married gay people as married people. and which is what they are, right? So I mean, Captain Obvious Award, I think we're going to look back at that in time and say Captain Obvious, but awesome, someone's got to do it first, and very good to see that Setagaya, pretty wealthy, pretty well-to-do part of Tokyo, very suburban, very so perhaps they're well-to-do, and I guess obviously not that conservative, and great. I mean, this is just pure common sense, but good on you, Setagaya, so good for that. I thought this was interesting this week. I saw a lot of this talk about this last week, of course, a lot of people talking about this at the moment. To me, the body cams thing always seemed like the obvious thing to do, and it was interesting, Obama in relation to these kind of very high profile, police abuse of power cases that were happening, started ordering the rollout, and you get this case of, police killing someone and lying about it, and I think this is great. And this is the whole thing, it's isn't it funny how, we always presume that the surveillance society would be something that would be used to help the police oppress us. And I'm pretty sure that's how the police themselves saw it. But as it turned out, it may be turning out to be that it's actually something which actually frees us from abuse of power. At least if it's done properly. And in that respect, I think this is actually a really landmark and really fascinating case. From America, and maybe in the end of the day, maybe cameras. I grew up thinking in 1984, a society where cameras are everywhere, like they have in Britain, for example, is something that society and normal people would fear as a way that governments could spy on us and control us. But it's kind of interesting. It's also, to me, if it's even-handed and it keeps abuse of power in check as well as crime, I think it's something that can be good, actually. And this is a fascinating case, and not only the fact the police who shot the guy and then caused the car to roll, and then actually recording the other officers getting their story straight with one another, but with other cases as well. So I thought this is a really interesting case about how technology is working. I mentioned at the start of this video how Dalian's been a bit of a digital Betty Ford clinic, although that said, if it has been, as soon as I got out of the Palm Springs Betty Ford clinic, I don't know if there's a road directly from Palm Springs to Las Vegas. I don't know how those roads work in America, but if there is, that's the road that I took when I got out of Dalian, out of digital Betty Ford. I pretty much binged on digital cocaine pretty much the whole time after I got out. I was straight into catching up all my Facebook messages, Twitter. I used up a full battery between getting off the plane at Narita and the 1.5 hour ride back home. So yes, I was pretty intensely catching up, but indeed it was probably good for me to be behind the firewall. And yes, I know there are proxies, I know that there are ways around the firewall, but I was working. Hey Shubhas, good to see you. But yeah, well, and the interesting comment there about how they are failing when police are committing crimes, for example. And this has happened, they're turning off or they're failing or whatever, but the fact is that once you put that out there and you make that available and whatever, from now on that's going to be harder to do, right? I mean, that's going to be a presumption of incrimination after that, which I think so you can have these ones not able to be turned off on all the time cameras. I think that's where it's going to go. Sinaju Full, good to see you. And yeah, I think it's interesting. I think it's a good development anyway. Life expectancy keeps going up and up and up and up. Why I think this is interesting is two things. One, of course, my son is going to be paying for all of these old people that are going to be living to 90 years old, when he's a taxpayer. And unlike these taxpayers have had 3 taxpayers paying for every one of their retirement, my son's going to be supporting like 3 old people. I don't know. The economy here is not going to be able to sustain the rate of elderly that Japan has. And not only is it the population imbalance problem, it's the problem that that they're living longer and longer and longer, and you have to pay to support them for longer. And it's Japan's biggest problem. And we always, even when I learned Japanese back in 1989, and people knew the demographic time bomb, they called it, and they said that it was coming, and they talked about the baby boomers becoming retirees in 1990. Like 20 years, 25 years before it really started to hit. We've always known this was coming, and I knew this was coming for as long as I've studied Japanese, and people told me when I studied Japanese that, if you invest a life in Japan, this problem's going to become big. But it's amazing how the population thing is now just hitting so hard and so fast, and it's becoming so real. The other thing about the retirement age is that, of course, the retirement age is by necessity coming up, and I don't expect I'm even going to have a retirement age. If anything, if it is, it's going to be like 75 or 80. The reason for that is that the reason the retirement age is actually 65 at the moment is that back in the day when they said the retirement age, that was the average life expectancy. So it was like a bonus for anyone who made it past the average life expectancy, which was less than half the population. You'd get a vacation for whatever little time you had left. Now it's like a free 20-year vacation for everybody who lives to that point. So it's causing real challenges. I mean, it's great that people are living long and will no doubt continue to live longer, but I think the idea that people get a free vacation after 65, there's going to be more of an onus to keep people healthy, I guess, because they're going to have to keep working. And someone there, Ken and Mark, says Hunger Games for old people. Well, maybe you might recall, if you're a bit older, you might know the movie Logan's Run. It reminds me of that a little bit. People get to a certain age and they have to they basically have that movie where they put them down. It's a bit 80s or whatever, but again, this is made by people who saw this problem coming. Hopefully we'll figure out a better solution than that, but yeah, that's kind of what it is. And by the way, don't say Hunger Games, because that is Battle Royale. That is a rip-off of the Japanese original, just like Simba's a rip-off of Kimba and all that stuff. But anyway, so I wanted to talk a little bit about this. I don't know, have all you guys, question for the audience, have you guys seen Schoolgirls for Sale in Japan by Simon Ostrovsky? I think I said his name pretty well before, even though I'm sure I said it wrong, but I said it kind of Russian, and it started with O and it ended with ski, and it started with Simon, so I think I was pretty good as these things go. Have you guys seen this? It's he's got a few interview pieces with Jake Edelstein where he confesses he would never want to be a Japanese schoolgirl, which I'm not sure if that's true. Jake's a friend of the show. I consider him a friend of the show. I had a great time going to his house and interviewing him on the show live a long time ago. And he was a great and very charming and entertaining guest. I enjoyed his books. I had a fun time talking with him. So all that said, I've seen a couple of shows with the Simon Ostrovsky guy now. I don't know if you've seen these before, but yeah, I wanted to talk about this. This is actually maybe the main topic I wanted to talk about last week. And it's interesting. So the thing is, this guy, he's done a couple of videos now in Japan. I don't know why he is the guy who comes to Japan. One thing I really like about Vice is that you have the guy who goes to the Middle East, is an Arabic speaker, they have in Lebanon and in refugee camps and so on, talking to Syrians. The guy who's in South America talking about with the Mexican crime stories or the Argentine crime stories is a native Spanish speaker. The guys who go to Africa, French speakers or whatever, are covering the wars and the trouble in Africa. And Simon Ostrovsky himself, of course, a Russian speaker who's in Ukraine, and he goes between both sides and for me provided the most interesting coverage, at least, of the war in Ukraine. So what I love about Vice News is that it's real. It's by people who can actually directly interact with the locals. They show a bit of guts, the way that they they put themselves into very dangerous sort of areas and so on, and it's very compelling. And the fact that you're seeing that this person is not just a talking head talking from the State Department, talking about their opinion on Chinese foreign policy. They're actually standing on the Chinese built islands talking with the guys who are building them in Chinese. That's very compelling. That has a lot more credibility with me as someone who's actually finding out something of value and giving you more of a real story than honestly, since before 9/11, and certainly since 9/11, no question, but since even long before 9/11, the way that news from CNN, which used to feel so real, it just feels so fake and engineered and storyline driven now. The Great Japan East Japan earthquake. The way that the media covers these sort of stories now is so unbelievable at the moment. It's so driven by commercial agenda. The narratives are so aligned. It's so horrible. What I love about Vice News, good to see Yuki Facts, is that that it's a real break from that, and for me it's a break going back in the direction of telling real stories with the real people and not focusing on the reporters, not focusing on the talking heads, but focusing on interacting with the people. This is a very long lead-in to what I don't like about Simon Ostrovsky and his coverage of Japan, which is that this guy does awesome coverage of Ukraine. The reason his coverage of Ukraine is awesome is the fact that he is able to directly interact with and challenge and talk with people on all sides, all over the place in Ukraine, in Russian, and that has a lot of credibility for me. why in the hell of all the countries that Vice covers, that they cover in with people who can speak native languages, why didn't they find a guy? I would volunteer. I mean, take anyone who can speak Japanese. There are plenty of people who speak good Japanese who Vice could send in to cover these stories, and they don't. It's like this one segment where this guy is a parachute journalist, and he looks like a parachute journalist, and he irritates me the way that parachute journalists irritate me. The subject matter that he's covering, both on the technology, the trainee apprentice system for foreign interns, and the way that that's being abused, basically for Chinese being abused as slave labor, impressed the hell out of me as a subject. Although I found it very awkward watching him. It was like he was fumbling around in the dark, covering a very important story. I love the fact that he was interviewing Chinese workers who were in hiding from the situation, which I've never seen on Japanese TV before. It's amazing actually to think about it, that as well known as this issue and the subject is, and it materializes in the form of murders, in the form of workers retaliating against their bosses and stuff like that, and you read about it. I've never actually read a really in-depth interview with a worker about their account of being abused before, and that is something that he did, which I respect, and the way that he actually went to the government agency that regulates it, which I didn't know about, and that they won't give public interviews, which is fascinating. There's a lot that was really good about that story, but it was also at the same time the fact that he was kind of going up in the middle of the night, knocking on the farmer's door and asking him if he was a sexual predator or something, in English, with a guy that he couldn't even talk to through an interpreter. That was super awkward, and this story even more so. Again, while it's a really important subject matter, and I think he got a lot of very good information, and he covered a lot of good angles on it, which is impressive given the way he's come in. What I really disliked on the story on this Schoolgirls for Sale in Japan was when he actually went into a JK bar, and he talked with A Mustard Blue, man in Japan. Good to see you. Thank you for the like. He went and he sat down. He sat down. Sorry, I just noticed the comments. He sat down with the schoolgirl, and the thing is that he was in this bar talking with the schoolgirl, and he had a camera, his hidden camera, showing the face, pointed at, which is a big problem in Japan. Actually, you're not supposed to show faces without permission, and he was pretty clear that it wasn't taking permission. I mean, I guess it's Vice, so it's cool, I suppose, but anyway, he had it pointing at the side and was recording a conversation of another customer with another girl as he was talking with the girl, and he was coming at the whole thing with the same preconception that every foreigner who sees hostess bars in Japan assumes, which is that this must be sex, this must be prostitution, there must be some sort of secret way when I'm talking with this girl that she will offer me sex. And he was talking to her saying, "Oh, what would you really do?" And I'm sitting there, it's like, if you've lived in Japan for any length of time, and I used to go to hostess bars, for example, with my surfing friends after we got back from surfing. I don't like hostess bars because, frankly, I think they're a waste of time. You just go there, you pay 5,000 yen for highly watered down alcoholic drinks to talk with girls. I mean, again, you go to a nice place, a good place. The girls are very good conversationalists, and they're good looking. But I used to live in Kashiwa, and the girls are kind of not that great looking. Sometimes you might get a good looking girl, and and they're not very good conversation either, and especially if you're a foreigner and they don't know what to talk about with you, and that's what it is. It is just there for a friendly conversation. And of course, sure, those things do get corrupted, and sometimes you take a case, and actually a personal thing. So dozens of times it was just a regular thing that I'd do with these Japanese surfer guys, that we would go out to these hostess bars. And the thing is, there is no, he's like, oh, that person didn't seem to be having a dodgy conversation or trying to procure her, but there was something uncomfortable about an older man talking to a younger woman. That is what the entire water industry in Japan is. It's just old guys having a young girl, laughing at their jokes and making them feel nice about themselves. And it genuinely is 90% of it. There's nothing untoward going on, and in this case there was nothing untoward going on, but he still had to add the commentary because of course he's going into it assuming that these are all child prostitutes, and that is the whole way he's attacking the story. And that is, of course, that does exist, no question about that. But the fact he actually secretly filmed a man doing nothing wrong per se, so he's just having a normal conversation. I mean, and saying, well, he didn't seem to be, treating her like a prostitute, but it felt uncomfortable that he was so much older than her. You're immediately, I mean, what he's criticizing is the entire hostess industry in Japan, which, granted, has its problems. It's not perfect, but it's not what he thought it was. And I found that the fact that he was missing all of that context when he came at that, and was perpetuating the stereotypes and preconceptions that he was bringing with him to covering that story on that particular part. Of course, he met a woman from a shelter who was involved in child prostitution and JK prostitution, all that sort of stuff. Indeed, mandolin playing, behave Mikey. You have all this sort of stuff, but he covered all the good angles on it, but where he actually engaged in it, he had no idea what was going on, from start to finish, and yet he covered it as someone who has no idea what's going on. And I found that annoying, and frustrating and kind of unfair, the way I thought that he was treating the guy. I mean, there was the whole thing, you made it look like he was going into a brothel, and he clearly expected that. He clearly was looking for that. And that's not what it is. Clearly, to me, in watching that's not what it was. So the thing is, if you got anyone who had been in Japan for, honestly, more than 3 years, and had any sort of, been outside of Roppongi at any time, and that probably better not to get an American, I don't know, get someone from countryside or whatever who's had any kind of a normal life in Japan. All of that filtering could have been properly done and properly explained, and it wasn't, because they got their Russian speaker. It seems great to me that Simon Ostrovsky seems to like Japan, and he likes to want to come here, and he's obviously, I'm sure he's going to learn about it fast, but I would really like him to learn a little bit more before he covers, or for Vice to get someone like him where he's in Ukraine to come and cover Japan, so they cover the stories properly. So yeah, it's a little bit of a rant, but on the whole, I still think the documentary was well done, and it was, it was up to what I expect from Vice. But the problem is that because he wasn't able to interact, and he wasn't familiar with the local culture, he got some stuff wrong, which was just super cringy. So that is my take on that. That's what I wanted to say to you. It was disappointing, because it's not the Vice that I know when I see Vice from Rwanda or from Burundi lately, or you see it in Argentina or Ukraine. And of course, everywhere, everyone complains about Vice coverage of their country. I've seen that on the videos. The Russians seem to hate the way that they coverage Ukraine and so on. But yeah, just a little bit of credibility. It's not hard to do in Japan. It's an important country. It is an important country. It's got 120 million people. Just find one guy who speaks the language and have him come and do the stories, please. And Philip Sang, thank you. I'm very glad I summarized your thoughts. Just need to get that out of my system. I haven't seen this movie yet, Attack on Titan, but I'm not going to watch it, because it is a highly, probably denser and major Japanese movie production studio pushed production of a very popular manga, which means it's not going to be good. The only good Japanese movies are done off the radar and without commercial pressure or intervention. And Attack on Titan was definitely in the middle of all of that stuff. So I find this, I love this comment, 40 out of 100, which apparently this review made the director very, very upset. But I wish the Titans would just hurry up and eat the kids so the movie would end. I remember my criminal law lecturer, who was an American guy in New Zealand. I remember he would start off lectures with weekend movie reviews. He just, for the first 5 minutes, he'd just talk about movies he'd seen. I remember his review of Titanic, which he'd just seen. He's talking about how long it was and how the story was just dragging out with a love story he didn't want to see. And he's saying after 1.5 hours, he was actually egging on the iceberg to hurry up and sink the ship. It just reminded me of that. That's the proper uniform. This is funny. Have you guys heard about this? I wonder if they actually show it in this. I haven't actually opened this up. I've seen on a Japanese site covering this. So, apparently, an TV Asahi bureau chief in Southeast Asia, there's some sort of thread on Line app with 150 journalists. It was like a thread for those journalists. Oh, the screen cap for it is hilarious, which they don't have here. Or do they have it here? So apparently, he sent he posted accidentally posted a dick pic on a thread of like 150, local foreign media or whatever, and the reaction, icons, the line icons underneath, people throwing up, people threatening to call the police, and everyone knew who this guy was. So I mean, it's kind of sad, I guess, in the sense that this guy's going to have a pretty rough road ahead of what was probably like a misstep. But my wife was showing me the from the Obasan's 2chan last night, the thread, and it was funny. It was all mosaicked out, the actual pic that he sent of himself, but the reactions underneath of just everybody, just the icon of a line character vomiting and so on underneath was just hilarious. Anyway, it's a big scandal and it's fun to read, but yeah, be careful guys. This was kind of funny. This was something that Steve Miller, who I will be doing another show of Steve Miller Wednesday this week, so look out for that on What's Up Asia. That is coming up. He posted this to me. Apparently, Park's father, military dictator, famous Japan lover who signed the diplomatic peace treaty with Japan, he was he was a famous Japanophile. He was in the Japanese military. He was educated in Japan, and he was the man who got Korea and Japan to become friends. His daughter, of course, is a bit stigmatized by the fact that her father was such a Japan-friendly guy. So she's been very, very anti-Japan and very make Japan apologize and all that stuff. Apparently, her older sister, who I don't know anything about, but apparently she was recently on a trip to Japan and appeared on a Nico Nico Doga live show, was being interviewed, and she expressed a lot of opinions that seemed very much more aligned with her father than her daughter. And indeed, the Korea Times original article doesn't seem to be going, but apparently, the entire parliament, government and opposition, and the president herself have disowned the sister, saying that basically, this is all BS, making Japan apologize over and over, and why are we doing this? We wouldn't do that ourselves. Why are we asking it of them? We should, be making friends with Japan. This is stupid. Kind of saying what I think myself, actually, but universally condemned and disowned in Korea, so that was kind of funny. Toshiba's accounting firm, which missed $1.5 billion in misreported profits, is apparently going to audit itself to find out what was wrong. That was Ernst & Young, by the way, which is interesting. I mean, everyone's starting to talk about Enron and how that brought down its accounting company. There's a big question. Can any shareholder trust books prepared for a company by Ernst & Young after this? I mean, how could you miss? Or allow them. The whole idea of having these guys is, auditing is to make sure that the books aren't lies, which it turns out they were. They look the other way. So anyway, JMK desde Argentina. Buenas noches, or buenos dias. I guess it's morning for you. I love Argentina. I love Buenos Aires. I've been there before. I love the accent, even though I can't speak it very well. And Toshiba doesn't need to be completely wiped away. I'm a big fan of Toshiba as a company. I really like the people there. I like their stuff. It's kind of sad, actually. But they're going to get their asses kicked for this. So this is a Japanese coverage of the story that I was just talking about with Pak. Pak in Japanese, Pak in English, where her sister went and said what's going on. There's a whole thing here about how to get the this is like the most popular video game in Japan at the moment, Splatoon. This is how to get the font for it. I love fonts, so you can go and get that if you want to. Fuji Rock is awesome. There's a coverage here of Fuji Rock Festival, which I went to for the first 5 or 6 years in Japan every year, and I completely agree. It changed my life, Fuji Rock Festival, actually. And if you're here and you have the endurance to go up into the mountains and be at a music festival that goes day and night for 3 days, and it takes a lot of endurance, but it's worth it. It's worth it. I did it many times, and I love it, and it changed my life. Apparently, so what is it? Vietnamese with a positive impression of Japan drops from 97% to 58% when they have been following the problems that Vietnamese people have been having with the apprentice system that Japan set up, that I talked about earlier with the Simon Ostrovsky story. That's basically a slave labor system. It's kind of funny. It's actually remarkable that 58% of people still like Japan in spite of being enslaved. by it. They have to clean up that system. Seriously, it is damaging Japan's international image. Great tweet, by the way, by Mulboyne, who is everyone should go follow Mulboyne. You can see the name there. I don't know if I can zoom that in. Got a great Twitter account. I've got him on my readables, one of my special lists. And he was posting a lot of tweets of mixed race Japanese athletes, just people who have an international parent, who have a foreign parent. My son will be the same, of course. And there are a lot of Olympians in track and field, and real standout Japanese high-performing athletes at the moment. And he mentions that rather than pageant contestants, which I said before, I'm not sure that I'm comfortable using pageants as a measure of social change, as much as we all seem very happy that there was a half African American Miss Japan, and as wonderful as that is, at the same time, a Donald Trump backed pageant system, I'm not sure that's how I want to use as an index of social progress. Whereas this, of course, actual people performing on merit, high performing Japanese athletes representing Japan and being recognized as Japanese for their performance is happening everywhere, of course, in soccer and sumo and in track and field, and indeed I completely endorse the view of Mulboyne that that's where I want to see these people do that anyway. So we want to see that, use that as your index, not pageants. I completely agree. JMK desde Argentina. I found similarities with Oyajis from the trailer of Suicide Squad with Dead Men Wonderland. I don't know exactly what you're talking about with I guess those are games, which I'm sorry, I'm getting old and I'm not keeping up, but yeah. And that is the end of my topics, which is just in time. That is actually good timing because I've got 8 minutes left. I've got 3 songs, so I need you guys now to someone type it as Mulboyne. I'll type it right now for you, Mikey Chen. Where's my keyboard? It's over here. Mulboyne. Everyone should go follow that guy. And Mr. Khodichev, there are a ton of mixed athletes in Australia. Well, yes, but at the same time, Aboriginal athletes still stand out. For example, partly mixed Aboriginal, if you take Aboriginal. And it still is controversial. I mean, Australian sports administrators penalising, what's her name, Sally Freeman, for carrying both the Australian flag and the Aboriginal sovereignty flag after winning the 200 metres at the Olympics was absolutely shameful. So, Australia still has a long, long way to go as well. And again, and I agree, actually, I think in Australia as well, at least when you're talking about Aboriginals and Torres Strait Islanders, I think actually it's very similar to Japan. I think sports is a great indicator of social progress. Much more preferable to having beauty contests, which, by the way, I'd be very interested to know if an Aboriginal has ever represented Miss Australia. I doubt it somehow, just because of the Australian stereotype of beauty. Anyway, sorry, focus. I got 3 tracks. I made 3 really, really good tracks that I want to play for you. And I don't have the full setup tonight. I do want to set this up so that I have, I've got multiple devices and samplers and all that sort of stuff, which I don't have. But I've got 3 tracks. So I'm going to quickly play samples from each one of them, and I'd like you to vote 1, 2, or 3. Okay. So let me switch over to this, to the turntables, the wheels of steel, and let me put that there. More over there. Turn this on. Turn this on. Let me put the headphones on, and let me turn this down a little so I don't blow the speakers. Okay, this is track number 1. Can you hear that okay? one do you like? Can you even hear me? Yeah, I think you should be able to hear me because that mic is still turned on. So 1, 2 or 3? The first one, second one, or the third one? Shangri-La, Dalian. Kind of funny. That's the second one. Travis Moore likes 1. We got a mix. Mr. Cordy Champ, I think that says more about you more than my music, but okay. Got a lot of votes for 1. Okay, it looks like 1 is the winner. So tonight my outro is going to be track number 1, which is good because that is called Dalian. So here goes. I will release, by the way, all 3 of these tracks this week. I will record full versions of and put up onto my SoundCloud. This one will go up tomorrow, but I will start, of course, with 1. So here we go. Boom. See that right? So let's kick this. Oh, just realized that's on very high. That was my son. Okay, and that is the end of the show, and that's me. That's the end of the show. So have a good night, and thank you for watching, and peace everyone. Good night. Peace. Boom. And we're out.